Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with Lim Reviews. Now today, I'm super excited to share with you my personal comparison of the newly launched Xiaomi 12 Pro versus the Samsung S22 Plus 5G. I have both devices right here today with me, and I'm going to be sharing everything that you might need to know about these devices. Now, before I begin, of course, I must say that both devices here are actually very good devices. I wouldn't say that one is bad or something like that. They're both great, but we're going to find out which one is actually more suitable for you. Now, apart from that, I also want to say that in today's video, the comparison, I'm going to be doing a different kind of format. I'm not going to be going over every single specification just to see which number is better and all that. I will put the full specifications down in the description box below, but today I want to talk about the user experience for each sector. For instance, how is it like in the display, how is it like in the cameras, which one is better, and what kind of experience you can get. So not too much on the numbers, but mainly on the user experience. Of course, before we begin again, if you do support content, new formats like this, don't forget to drop a like, sub to the channel, and yes, thank you so much for that. Let us begin. Now, first thing I want to talk about in terms of both devices here is of course the price, because price is actually very interesting here. The Xiaomi 12 Pro launched in Malaysia for RM3899, and you do get 12GB of RAM and 256GB of internal memory. In terms of the Samsung S22 Plus 5G, the reason why I chose this device for today's comparison is because the pricing is very near to that of the Xiaomi 12 Pro. It is starting from RM4099, and if you go for the 256GB of internal memory, it is RM4299. Bear in mind that is only 400 ringgit difference, which is approximately $100 if you are from other parts of the world. If you rewind the time back a couple of years, would you have imagined that Xiaomi's flagship device is going to be priced so near to Samsung's flagship device? Let me know down in the comment section below. Alright, so now done with the pricing, let's talk about the user experiences from both devices. So first up, I want to talk a little bit about the display. What kind of experience is better on the Xiaomi 12 Pro? Now, just in terms of the display from the Xiaomi 12 Pro that I have here, what I can say is that it is better in terms of the resolution. It is super sharp. We do have a 2K display on here, an LTPO display that is have a pixel density of more than 500. Now, anything that pushes above 500 is going to be freaking clear, guys. Everything is just super sharp, and it is one of the best displays that I've ever seen on a smartphone today. However, the only downside here is in terms of the curved edges on the sides. Now, this one actually is quite a headache to me because you do get a lot of accidental touches just by holding the device alone. Now, yes, some of you might say that you can go into the settings to actually adjust the corners to be a little bit thicker to prevent those accidental touches, but it does not really help. It is still very prone to touches on the side, so it's quite annoying, especially since I am quite a heavy user. So that's what I would say about the display. Otherwise, if you just talk about how good it looks, I would say it is excellent and even better than that of the S22 Plus. Now, let's talk a bit about the S22 Plus display over here. How is it different? Well, for starters, it is actually quite a little bit smaller than that of the Xiaomi 12 Pro. This is 6.6 compared to the 6.73. And what I love about this display here is that it is a completely flat out display. You have symmetricals all over the sides that is very good looking just from the front itself. However, in terms of the resolution, like I said just now, it is not as high. It is only 1080p. You do get a pixel density of even less than 400, so it's not really pushing it to the maximum, even though you are paying a little bit more money. However, the good thing here is that with that 1080p display, you can't actually see the difference in pixel density. But if you are a sharp eye person like myself, you might notice it a little bit. The good news here is that it does help to save a little bit of battery with the 1080p display. So yeah, you'll be able to get a little bit more battery just by having this slightly lower resolution display. Now, just in terms of how smooth they both are, I must say that they're both excellent. We do have 120Hz refresh rate for both devices, but if you just talk about the touch sampling rate, now this is where the Xiaomi 12 Pro has the 480Hz touch sampling rate, and this one is only 240Hz. So, it is a little bit more responsive on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, but again, in terms of real world use, you will not actually notice it. So, yep, in terms of display, which one would I choose? Well, just in terms of how easy it is to use, I will have to go with the one on the S22 Plus because it doesn't give me those accidental touches. If the display on the Xiaomi 12 Pro was a flat display, I would definitely give the win to the Xiaomi 12 Pro. Now, let's move on and talk a little bit about the design. And the reason for that is because I forgot to mention it before the display. Alright, so just in terms of the design, I must mention that both devices actually look quite good. Again, the first thing that comes to my mind in terms of differences between the designs here is that it's much slimmer on the Xiaomi 12 Pro compared to the S22 Plus 5G. However, being slimmer doesn't mean it is always good because it is very slippery to hold because we have a super smooth MAC back on the back panel here. But yes, they both look like this in terms of the camera cutouts. You do have very different camera cutouts, so I guess design is really down to a personal preference. The main call out here is actually in terms of the IP rating. You do not have any IP rating on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, but you do have an IP68 rating on the Samsung S22 Plus 5G. So just for that, I will have to say that I will pick this because, you know, sometimes I go to the pool and it might actually get a couple of splashes and I do not have to worry about that. Alright, so that's just in terms of the design. Let's move on to the next point here and talk a little bit about the cameras at the back. Now, cameras wise, I do have to point out the numbers because it is quite important here. They both come with 50 megapixel main sensors, but in terms of the ultra wide, you have a 50 megapixel on the Xiaomi, but you do only get a 12 megapixel on the Samsung. And in terms of the telephoto lens, we have a 50 megapixel on the Xiaomi and we have a 10 megapixel on the Samsung here. Now, again, those are just numbers. Let's talk a bit about the real world use. Now, when I put the pictures into my computer so I can see them there, it's more accurate. I was kind of surprised because I realized that both devices were able to take photos that look very similar to one another. I would say that the minor difference between both devices here is that the one on the Xiaomi 12 Pro tends to pop a little bit more. That means it is slightly more saturated than the one on the S22 Plus 5G. Both devices are not actually very close to life. They are both very saturated, but it is a little bit more saturated on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. However, in terms of the ultra-wide, I must say that again, thumbs up to both devices here because they are getting very good ultra-wide photos, great sharpness throughout the entire picture itself. They both look awesome. And in terms of the night mode here, again, a slight minor difference I would say is that the one on the Samsung S22 Plus is a little bit over sharpened, and you can see that only if you zoom into the image. But if you are looking from a smaller display or even from your smartphones itself, you will notice that again, they are very consistently, very similar to each other. So that's the kind of differences. But otherwise, again, at the end of the day, if you really have to choose one winner, I would say that me personally, I think it's again down to personal preference because they both look great here. It's only whether you prefer a slightly more saturated image or you prefer slightly brighter night images. Some people don't want it to be so bright. They want it to retain a bit of the darkness from the actual scene. So it is down to your personal preference. Now, moving on to the video, I did a very quick side-by-side clip here just to show you guys how they both perform in terms of the optical image stabilization. So just take a look at this video very quickly here and let me know which one you prefer. Do you prefer the one on the Xiaomi 12 Pro or do you prefer the one on the Samsung S22 Plus in terms of stabilization and image quality? Alright, now moving on to the next point here, let's talk a little bit about the performance. Now, like I said, both devices here actually get top-of-the-line processors. We do have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, UFS 3.1 storage, LPDDR5 RAM. Basically, in layman terms, that means that you're getting top-of-the-top kind of performance in these devices. Now, in actual use, how does it feel like to use? Well, this is where it is quite different because on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, this is running on MIUI 13, whereas on the Samsung S22 Plus, obviously, is running on One UI. Now, in terms of the performance, I noticed that they both perform very similarly here. Obviously, with a top-tier processor, you are able to run any single game without any issues. Launching apps, everything is just blazing fast. However, if I must point out something, I must say that the performance is actually slightly better on the Xiaomi 12 Pro because it does not have any throttling issues. And this is where we have to talk a little bit about the Samsung. Samsung has already admitted that they have throttled a couple of performance in the apps for this Samsung S22 Plus. So you're not able to go all the way all out. So that's what you can get. But in terms of the heat coming out from these devices, I noticed that when I play a couple of games on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, it tends to heat up a little bit more compared to the Samsung S22 Plus. So overall, question here, do you play a lot of games? Do you play highly intensive graphic games? If you do, then I would say that the recommendation is to go with the Xiaomi 12 Pro because everything is maxed out. Now let's move on and talk a bit about the experience with the battery life. So yes, I've used both devices here for quite some time now, and I noticed that the battery life, although it is slightly larger battery on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, but we are having a slightly longer battery time with the Samsung S22 Plus. And I think this is also attributed to the throttling of the apps because it has a 1080p display, and of course the display is also smaller. So that is why it has a slightly better battery life. But the real deal here is all about the charging speeds. Now, I can't talk about a review without the charging speeds, and in this case, the Xiaomi 12 Pro is it just trashes the S22 Plus. The reason for that is because it does come with the 120 watt charger in the box. in the box, guys. And this thing charges up from 0 to 100 in just 18 minutes. It's super fast. Whenever I wake up in the morning, I don't even have to worry about charging the device at night. Just pop it in, take a quick brush of teeth, shower, and then it's already done. Whereas for the Samsung S22 Plus, not only do I have to spend more money to get another charger, it doesn't even charge up that quickly. So I think it's about 40-50 minutes. I can't really time that because it is just so much slower compared to the Xiaomi 12 Pro. Alright, so last but not least, let's talk a bit about some of the final details of the phones itself. And I want to talk a bit about the haptics for both devices. Well, in terms of the haptics, I must say that here, it is very obviously that the Xiaomi 12 Pro has better haptics. I'm not sure what kind of haptic engine is being used in the S22 Plus, but I'm very certain it has an X-axis haptic in the Xiaomi 12 Pro, and it just feels so good on the phone itself. All those vibrations are very crisp, very short, and very, very accurate. It just feels awesome. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about here is actually in terms of the stereo speakers. Like I mentioned, they both have stereo speakers, but which one sounds better? Again, they don't sound too different. In terms of loudness levels, it is slightly louder on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. In terms of the bassy feel, it is slightly better on the Samsung S22 Plus. They both have their own strengths to their speakers, but overall, I would say that they're both very good speakers if you just want to listen to some casual music without using a Bluetooth earphone or without the, the earbuds itself. So, yep, that's in terms of the speakers. All right, guys. Bottom line, which device should you pick? Well, honestly speaking, if you have to choose the best performance, the best display, and of course that super fast charging speeds, you appreciate all of those things, my best bet here would be for you to go with the Xiaomi 12 Pro. However, if you are just not a very high intensive user, you are okay with the optimizations that's going on with Samsung, I think that you can also go with the S22 Plus here because it comes with an awesome display, a great cameras, charging speed is a bit slow, I wish it was faster, but yeah, it's a very, very good all-rounder device, and I'm sure that you will be happy with it as well. Actually, if I have to point out something, if only the Xiaomi 12 Pro came with a flat display and if only the price was a little bit cheaper, I would say that my pick would have gone with the Xiaomi 12 Pro. But as of today, my SIM card is in the S22 Plus. Alright guys, I hope today's video comparison gave you a brief idea on what to expect on both devices. Again, I did not want to go with just spec by spec kind of a competition between both devices here. I want to talk about the real actual user experience. So I hope you like this kind of format. Don't forget to drop a like to show me that you support this kind of content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I surely hope to see all of you guys in the next one. Stay safe everybody. Bye.